Hello and welcome to this week's version of the Wendell Effect. My name is Brandon Wendell and I'll be guiding you through my view on the equity index futures this week. We'll go ahead and kick this off, just reminding you we are not broker dealers or investment advisors. We're going to take a look at this information from an educational standpoint only, not telling you to buy or holding particular securities, giving personalized recommendations. Past performance, no indication of future results, and we are not subject to trading restrictions, so we can have a position as security initiate one at a time. Please stay in touch with me. You can always email me at brandonwendell.cmt@gmail.com if you got any requests or comments, feedback, anything you'd like me to talk about, let me know. And you can also follow me on Twitter. I tweet pretty much every single day at TraderBW is my handle there. And of course, if you wouldn't mind, please hit like and subscribe and also the alerts. That way you can get in touch with us or stay in touch and keep promoting us as well. I appreciate that for the Wendell Effect on YouTube. So, kicking off for this week, for the April 16th week of trading, pretty much went sideways. We kind of followed through a little bit to the upside on the weekly chart, but overall, we're still moving a bit sideways here, even with all the news that came out with CPI numbers and the Fed and things like that. Obviously, not really moving much at all, other than sideways. Looking at the daily chart, it looks like we might be in for a little bit of a pullback. You can see that we have a negative divergence where prices made a higher high at the end of the week, but we did that with less momentum. So that is a negative divergence, usually leads to a correction. I do not expect a change to a bearish trend. I'm simply expecting a small pullback before we try to test that daily supply at 5260 area that you see up above, basically 4,300. We're going to try to make a run for that. But we got to get some momentum first. You can see on the 4-hour time frame, we're just, again, last week was kind of a wash, just a little bit bullish, but for the most part, back and forth. And we're seeing a lot more of that. We do have bullish momentum. We're not going into bearish territory below 40, but we're also not getting a big run to the upside either, so it could be more of the same. And when you take a look at who's been leading us in this move to the upside, I mentioned it last week as well, it's definitely the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ is the leading index. And since the NASDAQ is leading, we should really take a look at that to know when we're going to reverse, because the leading indexes to the downside was actually the Russell. That'll be the one that tells us when we bottom out and start to rally. The NASDAQ will tell us when we're topping out and ready to drop. So looking at the NASDAQ, you can see we stalled just shy of a supply zone on the weekly chart. So bullishness in the last couple of weeks, even though we went sideways, made lower highs, lower lows, we had bottom tails on the candle wicks, which is bullish. So underlying pressure is up, it's just not ready to pop yet. It looks as though we did our extension from our previous impulse, and we're just building momentum to break through. On the daily chart, pretty much same thing. You see we're taking a retreat, we're pulling back just a little bit, but this doesn't look like a change in trend. We're trying to build some momentum to get through that supply, and it's going to be very choppy as prices do. And going to the daily chart here, you can see on a retracement, we've gone only 23% on the pullback. So a very weak retracement from our last impulse to the upside. And it looks as though maybe we're getting ready to push back up this week, or at least not go down. We're likely to go a bit sideways. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. I don't see us breaking down to fresh lows this week. Could it happen? Yes, but we're likely to stall out at 12,736 if we do pull back. I think that would be the floor at the most. But for the most part, I'm expecting a bit choppiness and sideways, maybe even a little bit of a new high by the end of the week. Looking at the 4-hour time frame, this is last week where I said, we had to watch to see, could we break to the upside or down? We hadn't made it into bullish territory yet for the indicator. This week we see, again, going back, this was that rally that is right here. You can see that we failed to make a high above 60. But when we came down, we didn't really go down very far. We failed to make a new low. We ended up making a higher high, actually 2 of them, and a lower low. So it just became a sideways kind of washed out week. And there's not really a lot of momentum to change anything there. So we could have very similar things going on this week, unfortunately. So that's kind of what I'm seeing. It looks like we're just going to go back and forth and a bit choppy, slight bullish to it, but that's about it. Looking at the Dow was definitely a weaker index, and you can see we can't seem to get into bullish territory, but we're not moving into bearish either. We're just sideways. And it's very difficult to trade this unless you're intraday trading short term. Same thing, we got this nice bullish trend, but coming up to the prior highs and weakening a little bit of momentum. So it's going to follow whatever the NASDAQ does. And the same thing on the 4-hour, we had a big move up, but we didn't get the momentum needed to continue to go higher. You see that divergence there where momentum died off as prices went up, leads to a pullback. And that's what I'm expecting, a little more weakness here in the Dow than we saw in the NASDAQ perhaps. And finally, the Russell just going sideways on the weekly chart. Not much there. It's definitely the weakest index of all. You can even see it here on the daily. We collapsed and just gone sideways. Can't even seem to make new highs. So if we do drop this week, the Russell would be the leader. And looking at the smaller time frame, there is a little bit of demand that we could push down to 1720. So if the markets open up on Sunday and Monday very weak, I'd be looking at this to target the 1720 for a possible bounce. And if we do bounce, I'd be looking to go long on the NASDAQ, as it is the strongest index and gives you the most upside potential. The Russell may just be dragged along with it. So that's what I'm seeing for this week. Again, if you've got any questions, please email me at brandonwendell.cmt@gmail.com. You can hit me up on Twitter. And of course, if you could please hit like and subscribe for the videos. We're doing a little bit of a format change here, just dividing up into smaller pieces, easier for you to digest and follow exactly what you like to follow. Love to hear your thoughts on that. So if you could just hit the like and subscribe and then give me an email or even a comment in the section below, I appreciate it. Until next time, everyone, trade safe, trade well, and take care. This has been the Wendell Effect for the April 16th. Talk to you soon.